Topic: self-effacement. Meher Baba has said, the way of my work is the way of effacement, which is the way of strength, not of weakness. Oh, wait, hold on. My screen is getting cut off by our little picture. Oh, no. Hold on. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. The way of my work is the way of effacement, which is the way of strength, not of weakness, and through it, you become mature in my love. What does Baba mean by self-effacement? Is it having a negative view of oneself? Does it mean having low self-esteem, feeling ourselves as being small? Do such attitudes lead to self-forgetfulness and effacement? Is it possible to have high self-esteem without egoism? Baba has said that we have to efface our lower selves. What is the lower self? He defined it as that which makes you think you are small, that which makes you think you are not satisfied, not happy, that which makes you see others, that which makes others see you as small. So the meaning of going against the lower self is to transform this in quite the opposite direction. Be that which makes you look big and makes you see others as big. Remain pleased and contented, happy and satisfied. When you are displeased, unhappy, or upset and moody, it is your lower self asserting itself. Therefore, according to Baba, thinking of ourselves as small is not self-effacement, but it would seem that a high self-esteem is what he is encouraging. What are some of the ways that lead to self-effacement? Baba has said that by expressing a self-giving love, rather than venting our ego with all its negative emotions of pride, lust, greed, and anger, the negative emotions gradually begin to be effaced by the divinely human qualities within us. For example, Baba has said that lust is gradually replaced by purity, greed is replaced by generosity, anger by tolerance and patience. Baba also gave supreme importance to saying his name as a means to self-effacement. Marwan Jasawala, Erich's brother, has said that taking Baba's name is like introducing termites into our interior. The inner space is eaten away until it is hollowed out, making more and more room for Baba to live in us. Remember the game of Pac-Man? That's cute. Does self-effacement mean giving up even our spiritual experiences? Rick Chapman, in his meeting with Baba and Maharazad in 1966, was told by him, in fact, pay no attention whatsoever to the spiritual path, the planes of consciousness, or to any spiritual experiences. They are all nothing but toys for children because they are nothing but illusion. Is Baba implying, therefore, to even renounce our spiritual potential in favor of self-effacement? How many spiritual teachers would recommend this? Darwin Shaw used to say with this enigmatic smile on his face, sooner or later, we discover we are nobody. And that is not an unhappy discovery. Let's lose ourselves in this topic. In his love, Jeff.
So just to kind of put this a little bit in context, Baba describes two fundamental approaches to the divine. One is the path of transcendence, where we go up through the planes of consciousness to the spiritual sublime heights. And there in that particular path, we are realizing our spiritual potential. In the second path, which the Mandali mainly recommend, but not entirely. I mean, there are saints that are up on the spiritual planes helping the world, so that's a completely valid approach. The second, though, is a path of self-effacement where we go within, not up. We go within and empty ourselves little by little, making more room for Baba to live in us. With his grace, we empty ourselves out so he can live in us. And one of Kitty's favorite lines from the Bible was, "Not I, but Christ liveth in me." So in the path of self-effacement, we become more of like a vehicle. not a base of operations. So anyway, I'm just saying that as a way of introduction, but if there's anybody that can speak to any of this, um, or spell it out or give any kind of examples, uh, venture forth.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or do I have to put my hand up? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you can wave your hand, and then Jasima there, he'll be able to spot you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can say that right now, something that, or I think I might be a little bit, lesson that Bob was trying to teach me, but I definitely did not have any idea of, is so much of my relationship with Baba was, oh, I'm being a good Baba lover through sacrificing, and I created this idea that I was this amazing Baba lover, spiritual aspirant, because I like bent over backwards, which actually was just creating like a deeper resentment, which was stopping me from actually like having the intimacy with others, which is really just having intimacy with Baba. And I realized that so much of my relationship with Baba was like I had a chip on my shoulder. And really, when you are attached to this idea of how self-effacing I am, you're really just moving from a place of narcissistic ego. Like when you're really moving from a place of love, there's no sense of, oh, I'm such a good person because I'm doing this. I'm bending over backwards for these people. It comes out of joy. And I think that's when you can, I mean, at least for me, it's like Baba's showing me that you can identify when you're feeling really good about something, meaning like me, or when it's him moving through you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, where you're more eclipsed by Baba, or you're kind of a vehicle rather than you're the doer.
Yeah, or I think it was more that self-effacement has nothing to do with the action that I take, but the action that he takes through me.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. And what like to say, what is your feeling when you do something for fun? You have fun doing it, or you do it with joy? What is that? How would you? Where does that coming from? Would you say?
I think that's coming from a place of love, but it comes and goes in the moment. It's like you do it and it's in the moment and you don't even think about it again. Even when you do something like a good deed for at least for me, if I do a good deed for someone and I have like a chip on my shoulder about it, I'll think about it. I'll be like, oh, I did this good thing. But when I really do something out of love, I don't really think about it again. You
Excellent.
know?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I know. That's why I think the spiritual life with Baba can be a lot more fun because you don't have to think about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Done. Okay. Anybody else want to venture out into the high seas? Well, I might even have to get Tony off of his. So, oh wait, oh, no, that Bob Yeager, but he's clapping, but he's not raising his hand. Uh-oh,
All
you're
right.
Sorry,
Hello.
wrong symbol, but I meant to raise my hand, but I hit the wrong.
good. Okay.
Okay. Jeff, this reminds me so much of a little story you told a couple of weeks ago that was so meaningful to me. And I wasn't able to watch it again on YouTube because it didn't get recorded. But it was the story you told about the plates. And this idea of self-effacement it's lightening all that load of the lower self, trying to give that to Baba as much as possible. And you're right, sometimes it's no fun at all, because sometimes the more you try to give that, to surrender it, the harder it gets. It's just, Baba, what is going on? I would really like to hear that, if it fits what's going on. I would really like to hear that story again from you. about emptying the plates in the restaurant.
Okay, I mean, we'll see what goes on from here, but I'll be sure to chime in at some point.
Okay, thank you.
But if there's a complete, standstill here, but don't, please. Anyone else have something to say? Ah, good.
Yes, hi. So I guess I think of it in terms of, like, say, music. If I've written a song and I'm performing or acting, or poetry, writing it and or performing it, for me it's essential to get out of the way so that Baba can come through. And I say, I dedicate it to Baba to, like, let me step out of the way, let me get out of the way so you can come through. If I don't do that, the song doesn't move, the acting doesn't move, the poetry doesn't move, nothing moves. And so I think this effacement is not what I thought it was. It's like taking your face away. It's not disappearing. It's actually, by letting Baba come through, you're letting your best, most real self come through. And so it's one thing to do that when you're singing a song or telling a story or whatever, but just in the day-to-day of just moment to moment of any one day, to keep remembering to ask Baba to help me get out of the way, And sometimes more successful than others, but when I'm successful, it's because Baba did it. I asked and I accepted him doing it. I don't think, otherwise, if I'm doing it, there's no self-effacement in it. It's all self, little self, stupid self. Thank you. I don't hear you, Jeff.
Jeff, you're on mute.
There's a line from Andre Gide where he says, art is a collaboration between God and man, and the less of man, the better.
That's right.
Vivian?
Marion?
Yes.
Oh, okay, wasn't clear. Hi. Well, what sparked me to share is my process, because it's so individual. And in my professional training in the organization, we're very similar, that Baba led me to for this training, that Baba said there's a triad nature that Baba has of knowledge, power, bliss. And so that means all humans have a triad nature. And in my training, we use the words knowledge, power, wisdom, but it was, wisdom, love, and power. So it's the same thing, that's the higher self. So I have a lower self also. And in that, what you read about effacement, there's lower self mentioned quite a few times. And I got one. And so what behooves me is that I needed, and I did learn about my own, what is my dominant part of my triad nature? And it is heart. The defense, like when I was a little girl and how I learned to defend myself, was emotion. So all of that triad nature can be shifted into a defense qualities of reason, will, and emotion. So the person who's more into their dominant aspect is wisdom, they're in their defense, they're going to get sort of in their head, intellectualized and so forth. I don't do that. I get very emotional, and the lenses I put on are like emotions, not feelings, and I react. So I've learned that about myself. So I have to have tools in my toolbox for when I'm reacting, or if I feel afraid, or if I feel angry, or sometimes when I'm afraid, I don't feel angry because I don't want to be angry at anybody, because then I get disapproval, because I'm invested in looking good and being the good girl. I put that in quotes. So those are all my defenses. So what I've learned is that I have to, every day, I put in my to-do list to release my lower self at least 3 times a day. If I need to do it more, do it more. So I have all these tools that I've been trained in. I have a hitting bat, I have pillows, and Baba's pictures there. And I always tell Baba what I am doing, and that I am going to release. If I'm reacting to a person, I say, that person triggered me. Didn't cause it. Nobody causes my stuff inside. That person triggered in me. I'm now going to release it from my energy field so that I may be filled, and I'm talking to Baba, with your light, love, and life. Then I let it rip. And I mean, I do all the psychodrama stuff, and I'm banging on stuff and killing people and all kinds of stuff. And then that releases, and I smile. It has nothing to do with the person who triggered it. So what I'm emphasizing in this example is the lower self is a gateway to a deeper level of the divine. Every lower self aspect has a divine quality. You can't go around it, you can't ignore it, and not everybody has to do what I do, because not everybody has my personality, but you have to do something in order to go through it and have some tools for that. So I'm very grateful for that. And I have to do it every day because life is so intense that I just get bogged down and I have to do something like that. So that's just an example, especially working with the triad nature, because somebody who's triad nature, their more predominant aspect is, let's say, a power in the positive sense, powerful creator. Their defense is going to be will. My will over your will. My way be done, not yours. That's a defense, but it's a distortion of power. So that's the lower self, and it's a treasure to go through it.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow. No, I like the methods that people come up with to, to get to that deeper place. Yeah.
So Marion, how do you convince a power-hungry person or a power-oriented person about any kind of value of effacement?
Say that again. Oh, I don't think you can talk somebody into anything.
No, but I mean to sell them on it.
Oh, I think I have to know the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting to the strong-willed type, because I attract the strong-willed type because they want to have dominance over me. And I like to give my power over to that strong-willed type because I kind of want their power. So I think if I act like a good girl and give my power to them, they'll give me something, but it never works. It always ends up in a mess, just a mess. So what I've learned is, take a breath, put some light around me. Don't take on their view of me. And if there's room for a response, fine. If not, walk away.
Good. There you have it. Who's next?
Bob.
Yeah, the idea of tools I really like, and a couple of tools that Rick Chapman mentioned in his book, You and I, that I don't know when Baba said these or to whom he gave this advice, but one thing was, first thing in the morning when you wake up, say to yourself, Baba, I now begin entrusting all thoughts, words, and deeds to you. Baba, I now begin entrusting all thoughts, words, and deeds to you. And then at night, before sleeping, repeating to oneself, Baba, I entrust everything that I did, thought, or spoke, good and bad, to you. And that, which is not necessarily an easy thing to do, but it helps. And so I can tell when the lower self wants to get in the way. Let's say I do something or I say something, and the ego wants to grab a hold of that and either make me feel not so good about it or too good about it. Oh, you did such a good thing, or that was a stupid thing to say. All of that self-judgment. But if I can remember that I told Baba, I'm entrusting all of this to you. So that means including its results. I'm entrusting all the results to you. Just get out of the way. Lower self with all of this, just get out of the way. Just let, as someone said, just trying to let Baba flow through and be in charge of all this stuff. And I think, okay.
Yeah, beautiful. And we may have you read that thing. I don't know if you can read it once again, not now, but that your poem on self-effacement.
Yeah, I've rewritten just one of the lines on that. So yeah, I'd be happy to do that again.
We'll do that later on.
Okay.
Anyone else have something to chime in? We're talking about self-effacement, and there's realizing your spiritual potential, which is like a different path, and self-effacement. One is realizing your spiritual potential, and the other one is kind of emptying everything out. As Darwin used to say, sooner or later you realize you're nobody, and that is not an unhappy discovery. Say that right in front of us. Anyone else have?
Trisha, you're on mute.
You're talking about Margie or Vanessa?
Trisha. I hear Trisha. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It is a really tricky one. I can't quite get my head around it, actually. It's like a conundrum. So I'd like some more explanation about this topic.
Okay, of self-effacement.
Yeah, yes. I did read what you wrote, and it was really interesting, but I'm still kind of puzzled by it. The difference between, self-esteem and like he still wants us to have self-esteem, but then also self-effacement. That's kind of tricky.
Yeah. I mean, one way of saying it is if you have low self-esteem, you're kind of worried about yourself. If you have kind of a high self-esteem, I mean a healthy self-esteem, you don't have to think about yourself, and so it's easier to get out of the way. But if you're beating up on yourself, your self is getting so accentuated that it's hard for Baba to live through you. So having a kind of a healthy self-image means you just don't have to think so much about yourself.
Okay.
I don't know if that, so self-esteem is good to have if you're not like totally conceited, but you kind of have a healthy sense of self. Then you just don't have to be you're thinking about yourself all the time, and you can respond to the environment, and love can flow through you. You're not having to check on yourself. I don't know. Does that help a little bit?
It does help a little bit. I do have one tool that I use when I'm in a tricky situation where somebody's, I think it was Marianne was talking about people kind of bully you when you're small. I often
do
get
what?
bullied. You often get bullied when you're small, when you like a little person, right? And that is, I start singing that song, May her father's love, may her father's love, may her father's love. I just start singing that song inwardly when that's happening, and just kind of try and let it flow out. That's my little tool that I use to keep from reacting.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Darwin talked a lot about, we'll get to Margie there, but about getting some space between your consciousness and your reactions, so that you can respond rather than react, that some space in there. And But yeah, if you kind of think of yourself as small, then bullies have a field day. They can have a field day with you, you know. And so, what we read earlier, I don't know if you saw the email. Yeah, you did see the email that came out. But what Bob has said, you know, you want to be so that people don't see you as small, but they see you as big, big-hearted, larger, rather than, you know, little poor old me. Because that people have fun with that.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, but keep asking questions because this is it's a it's a particular thing that Baba has highlighted more than some of the other spiritual teachers have in the past. They're kind of emphasizing spirituality, and Baba is emphasizing naturalness.
Yes, and he did encourage people to kind of perform and, yeah, kind of lose that self-consciousness, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He even said to some artists, I think it was an actor who was very nervous, and he told the actor, this is like an interview in Europe, I think in the 30s, think of yourself as big. Think of yourself as the greatest singer. What's the harm in it? If it gets you to, you know, to share your heart, where's the harm in it? You know, I mean, so it's not like it's not like you really believe you're the greatest singer. I mean, and go around and think that. But when you're performing, think you know you're really going to belt it out and sing it out. You know, you're the best person to do this. It's. I mean, Bob, remember Tony? Tony probably knows that quote better than I do.
That was pretty much on the money. I was going to share that just now. What's the harm if it's not for ego, but only so that you can perform the part well? Yeah, and I think when self-esteem is fine if you're not talking about the separate self. If you're really just the self that you share with Baba, then I think it's wonderful because then that is your real greatness. No question about it. But anything, I get a little bit nervous about self-esteem because I tend to err on the other side, which is not good either. But self-esteem, if it's grounded in your real self, I think is the way to go. If it's I'm a big guy and I can do this, at least for me, that doesn't work.
Yeah, good nuance. That's really good. Yeah, by linking it to Baba, you're made bigger because of Baba, not because you're all that great. Okay, who we got next here?
Margie. Margie.
Oh, this time we'll get Vanessa maybe.
There you go. Hi, it's me. It's Vanessa. I was just going to say that I've kind of had a little bit of an evolution with this subject. I feel like, well, intuition has been playing a role with kind of following the heart urge. If I'm, feeling like, oh, I need to go, be here at a certain time, and it turns out that someone's there and I'm able to help them, and that wasn't like a premeditated thing, but I'm just following that intuition and that urge. So I know that Baba was there, and Baba was, prompting me for that, and that's a very sweet thing. But I think in terms of developing self-confidence and being more present in the now and not reacting and being more responsive, I've had a lot of success, and sort of I've been experimenting with just identifying what my story is, and not projecting like my story onto somebody else. And a lot of times I just have to just sit with my emotions and then identify what I'm feeling and be okay with what I'm feeling, but just kind of surrender that story to Baba. And the more I do that, then I feel like I'm, Baba's more present. And then, I'm not trying to react to my own emotions and cause anybody else to, to feel, judged or to be misunderstood. But the more that I'm surrendering my stories and just allowing my feelings to come and go, I feel like, the more grounded I am in that higher self and able to kind of be more of a witness, which is fascinating because, you know, I was thinking that in this path of Baba, I was just going to have this be more absorbed in his love. And I would, you know, I guess maybe it was more like a romantic sense of like falling in love with Baba and people in my environment. But I'm finding that it's a much more powerful experience of the small me disappearing, and you know, the part of me that's stuck in the play, the drama. So and the coming into a role where like I'm, you know, yes, I'm part of the play, but I'm no longer engaged in the, you know, that the inner turmoil of it. It's like the turmoil's out there, the drama's out there, but it's not in here, and it's not affecting inside. So that's been my sort of kind of journey, and I'm just so grateful to just watch how Bob is working with me, and I see so many other people like, you know, having successes and going through their journey, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Beautifully said, Vanessa. Wonderful. This is Laurent Weisberger's wife. And he's done wonderful. He's given a lot of beautiful things. You know, here's something that you said is there was a king who had, you know, his ministers and everything, but he favored Kalyan. You know, everybody, and they people and you know and envied him. And one day the king took off his signet ring, and the signet ring that you stamp it and you can, you know, that's the seal of the king. Anything that has the seal of the king is, you know, is gospel. I mean, and he took off his ring and he put it on the table and he asked, you know, it was bejeweled and everything, and asked everybody to estimate its value. And they all, the ministers and everything, they all came up with how much this thing is worth and everything like that. And then he turned to Kalyan, how much is it worth? He said it's worth nothing unless it's on your finger. And Baba himself said, we are nothing, really nothing. We might be something big in the world, but if we have Baba, if Baba is wearing us on his finger, we are worth something, only because it's his finger that's sustaining us. So, I mean, what Vanessa was saying, that reminded me of that. That's kind of like that's the self-esteem, is that we have Baba. That's the special self-esteem.
Can I just piggyback on that? I know can I piggyback on that? Something when I was younger, and this is like one of the first times that I kind of felt like I heard Baba talk to me. I heard Baba say, like, I've given you many talents, but with the caveat, you're only to use them for me. And I can feel when I like get out of alignment with Baba, because I start to use the gifts that he, you know, that he gave me for like worldly good, and it never works out. But it's like when I use them not for my higher self, you know, and to work for him, when I get out of the way and don't kind of take for granted or like sacrifice all these talents that he gave me, that's when like he can flow.
Whoop. I saw her. Well, talk about effacement. They're gone. I think they both got realized right here in our right on the screen. Okay. Who else we got, Jaysima?
Tony, I'm not sure he has still something to say. Tony?
Oh, Papa must have raised my hand for me. Because I don't recall doing that. I think it's tricky. It's always been tricky for me, this, especially about, say, being, but now Margie's not here, but whether you can be successful financially, in terms of recognition and all that, through the gifts that Bob has given you. And I think many of us, myself included, feel like, no, none of it should be for yourself. But actually, I've found that's a big ego thing. On the other hand, then I want to be like really rich and famous, you know. But I think there's a middle ground, because it's an ego thing to do anything that's going to prevent those gifts from getting out to people who could be helped by them. I do struggle with this, and I'm really aware that the instant I'm struggling, I have messed up, because what I have to do is not struggle, but get out of the way and trust Baba. And the other piece that had come up for me was with the self-esteem stuff and all of that, was where Baba talks about the importance of faith. He says it's important to have faith in oneself, faith in the master, and faith in life. And you can't it's like they go together. And it's a kind of a balance. But if you have faith in Baba, but you don't have faith in yourself, then you really don't have faith in Baba. Or if you don't have faith that the world will respond to what you're putting out, then again, the faith has to be all the way around, and it's a challenge getting that balance. And the way, I think, for me anyway, is get the hell out of the way. Ask Baba, get me out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah. No, really. Very clearly. Well, are we? Well, Margie, are you ready to come back?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Our computer died when
Oh, I know that. Yeah, where the power went out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you guys, I think I said most of what I was trying to say, but it was just, I found in my life that when I mean, that really, I feel like for me personally, because I heard Baba say that, it's like directly disobeying him. But I've tried it many times, go out into the world and do all these things, and it doesn't work, because I'm like, oh, I'm so good at this, I'm so good at that. But then as soon as I open it to him using my talents, which requires me to have self-esteem, because if you're like, I'm not good at anything, you're not going to, Baba's not able to work through you. But when I can own the fact that I have these talents because of his grace, and they're only to be used for his work,
Yeah.
through me, but really it's him.
Beautiful.
That was what I was trying to say.
Yeah, there's a line where Baba says, "Whatever you do for me is done by me."
Mm.
I mean, whatever you do for me is done by me. I mean, it's hard to feel that, but what you're talking about. And whatever you do with love has perfect results. It's another line from Baba that I've always found very encouraging. But Darwin used to say, don't think of yourself so much as a base of operations. Think of yourself as a conduit, as a vehicle. So like Tricia, when in your artwork, it's getting done through you. Ideally, it's getting done through you. I mean, that's what, so you are actually getting effaced. You're just becoming a vehicle, and Baba's getting the stuff done through you. That's the height of self-effacement, you know.
There's that wonderful quote by Francis Brabazon. It says, art is an act of love in likeness of itself, spirit moulding matter into lovely form, his act in us for him.
Quote that again.
Say that again.
Yeah, that was very good.
Sorry, it's my silly accent. Art is an act of love in likeness of itself, spirit moulding matter into lovely form, his act in us for him.
Yeah, beautiful.
He gives it to us and we've given it back to him, just like you said.
Yeah, great.
Douglas.
I like that quote very much. I've been struck by it's bringing up for me my earlier life. I was an actor. Tony, much of what you've been talking about is resonating. And I remember in in 1970, I had just finished my bachelor's in theater arts and acting, and went to Myrtle Beach and spent about a month or 5 weeks there, where some of you are right now, you blessed ones. And I met with Kitty because I was in really a quandary about acting and about that sense of selling yourself and putting yourself out and me. It's such a world of me. It's a me world. And she told me that Baba loved actors and Baba loved the theater, and she was, it's not a problem at all, but I couldn't get past it. And I worked as an actor for the next 8 years or so, I worked a fair amount, but not as much as I would have liked to, and found it such a struggle because of this, largely other reasons also, but the sense of self-effacement is such an interesting image and sound to me. It's literally sort of that taking off something, or in our case, giving it to Baba, really. It's over and over again. Jeff, I love the quote you just had. Whatever you do for me
is done by me.
Is done by me. Yeah. Anyway, I've been working with this, as I'm sure we all have in some sense, my whole life. And it just continues to be a wonderful struggle that I feel growth in. And as many have talked about, there are tools in our toolkits. And I think remembering Baba is the most sort of fundamental that I find to have found continually. But it's a huge issue. It seems to me the heart of working with ego and egolessness, what we're talking about, and that's so hydra-headed and complicated. I don't want to leave that out.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of why I think when you do things with joy and fun and enthusiasm, it kind of softens the ego. It kind of say it doesn't awaken the ego as much, And like Margie said, if you have a good time, you don't kind of go and strut about it afterwards. You're ready to have another good time. Have some joy.
I think in that regard, Jeff, I think when we're drawn to acting or to poetry or to painting or any expression, creative expression, there's a beautiful passion in it and a wonderful purity in it. And then you get into the world and trying to figure out how to make a living and how to do all of that. It becomes so much more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course,
all the testing, competition, and
yeah.
Like you say, sell yourself. It takes, it can spoil it.
Yeah, it did spoil it for me.
I remember when I met Dr. Harry Kenmore, who was one of Baba's Mandali, and he, I think either the first or second time I saw him, and he had this very powerful voice. He says, "Well, what are you going to be in life?" And I said, "Well, I thought I wanted to be a writer." And, I kind of struggled with wanting to be a writer, but I never showed anybody my writing because I was too, I never even completed anything, but I was kind of struggling. It was kind of like this thing I was going to do. But Harry says, "Do you love writing?" he said it so profoundly, and I went in. I went inside for quite a while, and I said, no. I mean, I surprised myself. I said, no. He said, yeah, if you love writing, you would be even scribbling on napkins in restaurants. You would be writing. The thing that I didn't have the love of writing. I was trying, and if you don't have the love and the joy and the fun, it wouldn't go forward. But he asked the kind of fundamental question that I was not asking myself. You know, I wanted to do it for other reasons other than just pure love. So I was, it wouldn't move forward. Yeah.
I wanted to jump in on something, if I may.
You go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, the two things. Well, one, Douglas, I really enjoyed that share, and it made me think of I've been on some off-Broadway things, but I have not been very successful commercially. But I've had wonderful roles, and I've affected people's. They've come to me and said, "We saw you a week ago, and you really changed my life." And I'm going, "Bob, I don't know what you did," but the thing about acting for me is, in a way, it's a wonderful experience of self-effacement, because I feel like I get to go on vacation from myself from the time that I'm in that role, or I get to tap some other aspect of my psyche that I never use at all, but the part calls it out. And the other thing that came to mind, I was going to say this before, but I didn't want to jump in with a Kenmore thing. But since you mentioned Kenmore, the story of, I think it's Ayaz, not Kalyan, but in any event, about the ring, and the king asks, what's the value of this ring? And he has all the emperor, all the ministers come up and appraise it. And then he calls Ayaz, and I heard, this is one of those stories I heard from Harry, and he said, "Well, sire, when that ring is on that table there like that, it is worth absolutely nothing." And everyone's aghast. "But when that same ring is found on your finger, it is beyond all price." And that's how it is with you, with Bob, when you're on his finger. But Kenmore had a way of bringing that so to life that I just wanted to do my Kenmore.
He was very colorful, larger than life. Anyone else on? I guess Margie and Connie and Margie and Vanessa, they're kind of getting more and more reclining.
We're just very comfortable with our self-effacement. We're laying down to it.
Yeah, I hope, Baba, I hope you're getting really more and more self-effaced.
Her and I are not we but one, and we're one with the bed.
Anyone else have something? I can't remember what I
Jeff,
wrote down. Yeah, go ahead.
Like you told, we need to feel big of ourselves. So usually when we want to feel big, we always try to compare with the people around us. So we should be smarter than them in the group, or we should be richer or something. Then we will feel big. But without anything, without being smart, without being rich, how do we feel big?
Well, it's not worldly big. I mean, you can say you're big because Baba is in your life. You got, your father is a billionaire, and you got his a credit card, unlimited. That you're big because you're backed by Baba. But in the worldly sense, comparing yourself to where someone else is, that's just, you might be worldly big and yet really spiritually small. Or like Adi used to say, an intellectual giant, but a spiritual pygmy. He used to say that about certain people. That man is an intellectual giant, but he's a spiritual pygmy. That was one of his lines. So it's not so much thinking big in worldly terms, but big in that you belong to Baba and you are linked up to the boss of the universe, you know. And that if you need some help for, you know, in something, you can call on him. And most people, they don't really have anybody call from except whatever resources they happen to have in themselves, you know.
Thank
So,
you. Bob?
Yeah, this has been really useful for me. People talking about acting and writing, and it because I go back and forth about, maybe I should just not even try to write stuff anymore. What is that, Baba? I don't know what. But the thing is, I've never been able to write in a disciplined fashion. It isn't something I do every day. But when some idea occurs to me, it's like it comes from somewhere else. So the only way I can look at it is, oh, thank you, Baba. This is a gift from you. And then the actual writing, the actual working out of trying to put that idea in as perfect a way as I possibly can is such a joy, the actual working on it. Because when that happens, any concept of me or being good or bad or anything else just sort of goes away. Whoever I am is so focused on the joy of that it's just a gift. It's just a gift from Baba, and it's worth remembering that. And your comments have helped me to remember that.
hey, well, can you read the pulling of the thread?
Yeah.
Margie and Vanessa, just to wake you up. This is the most profound, insightful depiction of self-effacement. So listen closely, because could change your life.
Pulling at a thread. I noticed the thread on the button of the shirt and pulled. And when the button fell off, there was a moment's irritation until the thought occurred to me, the possibility that this unraveling could simply continue up the sleeve, across the shoulders, down the torso and the other arm all at once. And then, by some odd attraction unknown to science, progress from the shirt tail to the shorts, trousers, and socks. And then, inexplicably jumping like lightning from earth to sky, the mystery would continue from the tips of the toes all the way up the body, till nothing remained to my wife's astonished gaze but a slappy, happy Cheshire grin. Then, side to side, that too would go, not fading cat-like, but a clean unwinding. And then another lightning leap to mind, and all the dark and hidden residue floating up and up like buried stuff from deep swamp muck stirred by wind, coming to light and lining up bit by bit like the loopy threads on a dog food sack. And when, by grace, just the right place to pull is found, they unzip thread by binding thread quickly and easily, just like that, until nothing is left but you, beloved. Jai Baba.
That's it.
It's beautiful,
how it's done.
beautiful. Yeah.
And it should be fun like that, right? But no.
Hey, so maybe I'll use this time.
Jeff.
Oh, Sham. Oh, we lost him. Bob wanted me to kind of recount something that I shared maybe a week or two ago, but it wasn't recorded, and he wanted to hear it again. This is how Darwin, in his very unassuming way, taught us about giving to Baba. So what happened is this buddy of mine and I, we were traveling around visiting some of our college buddies, and one happened to live up in this little town, I think it was Rensselaerville, and we looked on the map and it was near Schenectady, New York. And we heard that there was this elderly couple that lived there who had met Baba in the 30s. And so one day we got the nerve to call them up in a phone booth when they had phone booths, and I was kind of like, I got kind of cold feet, but my buddy just went and phoned Darwin and Gene Shaw, and they said come right over. So we went over, and we got to hear firsthand stories of what it was like to be with Baba. I mean, they went all the way back to the 30s. So we were there for several hours. So when we left there, we since we didn't have any particular destination, we said, well, hey, why don't we just live here and we could go to Darwin and Gene's meetings. And so we decided to move there, and Darwin got us some jobs at the nursing home, the county nursing home. And so back then, this is in around 69 or 70, 1970, the thing was to the two things that the older people who had met Baba emphasized to us, kind of young, kind of hippie types, is to carry out your worldly responsibilities wholeheartedly and remember Baba constantly. Those were the two kind of main things. Now, Darwin and Gene weren't big on pushing anything, but we'd been around with Baba enough to know that. So we went off to this job with that on our banner, to try to be wholehearted about what we did and remember Baba. And so what happened is that it turned out to be the infirmary part, the infirmary's part of the hospital, which was like unbelievably back-breaking work, because a lot of the men were stroke victims, completely disabled. You had to carry them and bathe them and feed them and everything. It was exhausting. We found very difficult to do the work wholeheartedly and remember Baba at the same time. It was just, my remembrance of Baba was very thin. I mean, I just couldn't do the work, the demanding work, and remember Baba at the same time. So if I wanted to remember Baba, I would just go down the hall to the bathroom and lock the door and just stand there and just try to think of Baba, and then I would go back on the floor and get all swallowed up in the volume of work. And so we did this for about a month. And then we said to Darwin, we told Darwin, we are having a hard time doing the work wholeheartedly and remembering Baba at the same time. And what should we do? And Darwin said, he described this meeting with Baba in 1956, where Baba had the Shaw family come in, the three teenage kids, and Jean, his wife. They sat on the floor, and Baba said, I'm paraphrasing, if you love me, you must give me everything. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your good and your bad, your, I can't remember, a number of opposites. Give it to me, hold nothing back, and be free. If you do this, it will please me. So Darwin said this. Oh, no, the first thing he said was, maybe you need to create more inner space. Now, inner space, we thought, we never heard. We read everything about Baba, by and about Baba up to that point. It was never any mention of inner space. But we were kind of too embarrassed to admit that we didn't know what he was talking about. But so with those two things, then I thought, so we went off to work now, and I would normally feel dread I wake up in dread early morning, and by 11 o'clock in the morning it would kind of dissipate. But I started giving Baba this dread. It was like in my stomach, and I would just imagine Baba before me, and energetically this dread would go toward him. But what happened is that dread wouldn't dissipate at 11 o'clock. The dread went on going all the way till midnight, and then I'd get up the next morning into dread again. And I'd be giving that dread to Baba kind of fast and furiously, and through the day. It would go all day. So it was day after day of dread. It was worse. After a month of this, I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. And Darwin wasn't pushing this at all. He didn't say, are you guys doing what I said? He wasn't that way. But I decided I was going to discontinue this. Either I don't know how to give things to Baba, or I'm giving them to Baba and I'm taking them back. Whatever, it wasn't working. So I determined I'm not going to do that. And then right around that time, Darwin and Jean, they liked to go out to cafeterias. Jean didn't like cooking all that much, and you could just help yourself. So I'm standing in line. Darwin and Jean are ahead, and at the front of the cafeteria are these dinner plates that are spring-loaded. You take off a plate, another one pops up. You take off another one pops up. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And so Baba flashes this to me. You're giving me your dread. You give me a plate of dread and you look down, no change. You give me another plate of dread. You look, no change. But meanwhile, the stack is diminishing unseen below. So Baba convinced me that even though it didn't seem like he was receiving the dread, he was receiving it plate by plate, you might say. So I later on I said that to Darwin, and he said, exactly true. He said, Baba is impressionless being. Whatever you give to Baba is gone forever. But there's a layer behind it that looks just like the one you gave him. So it doesn't seem like he received anything. Well, give him that one. And you give that, you go on giving layer by layer. If you had like a big onion and you took a peel off of it, it would look the same. And you take another peel off. You have to take off a lot of peels before this huge onion looks about, that size. So I mentioned that, and then Darwin said, anything you give to Baba is gone forever. Okay? But he said that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is as you give things to Baba and they're dissolved, they're deleted, they're taken away, it makes more room for Baba to live in you. You're creating inner space. So there we got the answer. That's what inner space is. As we empty the warehouse of ourself, Baba has more room to live in us. And one day he said to us, even the good takes up space. The only thing that doesn't take up space is love. Love displaces nothing. But even the good, even the spiritual impressions, if you're on the level, if you're into self-effacement, even giving him the spiritual is emptying out. So then we went back to work and we started doing this. And eventually we were able to do this very demanding work and have Baba's presence at the same time. We had some space, so I didn't have to go down the hall and remember Baba in the bathroom. I was able to get the remembrance and the wholehearted work under the same roof. I don't know if that makes sense, but there you make room, you've got Baba with you, because there's some inner space created. He is living alongside of you, or with you. And you can at the same time do the work. So that was what, this is how Darwin, in a very low-key way, kind of gave us an idea of how to give to Baba and empty out ourselves gradually. and after 50 years, it's a lot better. After,
Yeah.
after many years, you become more of a shell, and he's going around doing stuff. I mean, he doesn't just lie around on the sofa, though. I mean, no, I'm just joking. Okay.
Jeff, thank you so much. I really wanted to hear that again, and I think that relates just so directly to the process of self-effacement that we've been talking about. Because it's not an easy process. It's not a fast process. It's something that one has to do again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And creating that inner space is, it's what it's all about.
And the thing is that the giving to Baba, the process becomes as fulfilling as any fulfillment of the goal.
Yeah.
After a while, like you say, you give them your fear of public speaking. After a while, you don't even care.
Right.
Because, the giving to him creates a camaraderie. I mean, this is, for example, I'm picturing a scene where Bob is saying, well, Jeff, what do you got to give to me today? Oh, that same old anxiety I've had for the last 3 weeks. That's all you got, that same old stuff? Well, give it to me. I mean, it creates a sense of humor because you're giving him such garbage. And after a while, you have to laugh.
Yeah, it's the same stuff. Here's another plate of that same old crap. Good grief.
And you actually start to find the humor in it.
Yeah.
Because Darwin used to say you'd like to give him a fresh bouquet of roses, but all you got is some sludge around the house, garbage, and yeah, it's fun. The giving is fun, and it creates a camaraderie. And he loves anything you give him.
Miriam?
Hi, thank you. That sparked something in me to remember that I'm very grateful for, and that is with my teachers in teaching me how to make any kind of changes in behavior or thinking, whatever, not to start with trying to change myself, not start with trying to do anything, because that's not surrender. That's me trying for my ego. And so what I learned, and it's kind of like a haiku, but it's not exactly, but it resonates in me. The first step of transformation is observation. It's not trying to be different. And Jeff, when you described your whole process and how it comes up again and again, that's your observer. You're not caught up and enmeshed in those old patterns. And so I was taught, once I can get to the observer and saying, oh, I notice I'm doing that same thing again that I've done for years. Oh, I'm doing that again. And then he said, and who is your observer? Spirit, of course. So that one step away from being enmeshed is, of course, my higher self, my spirit guiding me. And so I found with, let's say, clients I've had, there's a resistance to awakening the observer and noticing, because those old patterns seem like they're part of me. They make me alive. So I don't want to give up my old crummy ways. I want to keep them so I remember I was given an assignment this many decades ago to one thing that I needed to observe in myself, a certain belief or something like that. Take a notebook and do it for a week and note it down, because at that point, I wasn't just going to observe it and give it up and go on. I had to really do it over and over and over until it got to be a habit, like what you're describing, Jeff, of, oh, there it is again. Yeah, no big deal, but in my beginning decades ago, it was a big deal to observe that, because I was messing around with something I learned as a little child in this life that made me safe, that is a defense. And to unwind that and let it go felt like I'd have to give up, like the parents of my childhood or something. So, but in maturing, now it's part of my toolbox, Oh, notice. I love the word notice. Notice it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting some space between our consciousness and the object,
Yes.
rather than consciousness completely enmeshed in the object.
One step back. Yes.
Let's see. Any
I have a comment to what Marion said, and it's a line from one of Huma's poems. Our abode is in danger, and we have named you merciful.
Oh,
Whoa.
say it again.
Our our abode is in danger, and we have named you merciful.
Thank you.
You want to hear the whole poem?
Yeah, give us the whole poem. Otherwise,
Okay,
we're
here it is.
terrified here.
Out of clay, you have fashioned this image, and strangely enough, breathed life into it. In this statue, you have nurtured the urge to be one with you. In your nature's workshop is the master craftsman Iblis, who does not acknowledge you, who goes by the name of Satan. This is slander in my view, for to you is due the greatest respect. Our abode is in danger, and we have named you merciful. A moment's strife, a brief struggle. This life's drama is indeed short-lived. Like Adam, you have made me a 2-day guest in the waiting room of the world. How can anybody trace you when your own condition is unstable? But the moment Huma surrendered his ego, you gave him recognition.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You got
Yeah.
out of danger there at the end, I think.
At the second to the last sentence, how can anyone trace you when your own condition is unstable? Reverberated back into my mind. As I heard myself read it, it bounced back like I always read that as you being God, the infinite. But it's also the you within our own individual self. How can anyone trace you when your own condition is unstable? So then when I consider effacement, it seems like a hopeless case. Who gets effaced? But the toolbox, the world creates us, I think. It's a very powerful force. And it's also within us to begin with, but the complications. Anyway, I better shut up. Yeah, Jai Baba, thank you.
Jai Baba, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, look at Ralph is kind of effaced already. I mean, you don't even just see he's turned gray up there. Let's see. Oh, good. Tony.
I just remembered a passage from Stay With God, a stanza that I fell in love with the first time I read it 50 years ago, and it's still so vibrant for me, and I think it relates to this. Francis says, so the artist, if he is to sing or write or paint or play in truth, in praise of love, may not himself, but first find the golden thread by which he moves, the lovely note from which he has continuous becoming. Then find the holder of the thread, the lovely singer, and offer him his body, speech, and mind in service, nor asking in return the gift of art or anything. For even this finding and surrenderance is by grace, grace which puts us under eternal obligation of repayment. Heaven and earth move by the word alone, and it moves out from silence. The mover is the perfect master, who holds the thread which binds each one together in one gathered piece of movement, who sings the song which is our sighs and tears, our well-directed thought and sudden laughter. I don't know how well I read that now or not.
Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
love that.
Wow.
What
And-
page, Tony?
and-
Tell me what page is it?
Thank you.
It's in the it's stanza 10. In my book, it's page 126. One other thing also that came to mind was this short thing from the East-West Gathering, which I also loved from the minute I read it. Go on, singer, Baba is speaking. Go on, singer, singing, for that is your occupation. And remember that the song is heard only by your beloved and yourself. If your song contains your beloved's name, it breaks the locks on the prison gate of life, and you go forth into the singing silence of self-existence. If not, it knocks on the door of another womb, begging another body.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, well, let's see. What was I going to say? There were these two priests that were in this, in this church, and they're up in front of the altar, and they're praying to Jesus. Jesus, I'm nobody. We're nobody. We're just priests. We're lowly priests. Oh, forgive us. We're just nobody. They go on and on like this, and they're there for about an hour, and there's the janitor at the back of the church, and he overhears this. He's very touched by their plea and everything like that. And the priests go, and later on at the end of his shift, the janitor's up there at the altar and says, Lord, I'm nobody. I'm just a mere janitor. I'm nothing. I'm nobody. Please have forgiveness. Please, I'm nobody. And the priest happened to come into the into the church, and they say, one priest says to the other, look at that. Look who thinks he's nobody.
Not sure I get it, but
Huh? Look who thinks he's nobody. They're making distinctions of who's the real nobody and who's the nobody. Anyway.
Well, Tony got it, Jeff.
Yeah, Tony got it. Yeah.
Tony got it, yeah.
I got it. I'm just a little slow. I got it.
I knew what was coming.
To ponder. One time, Darwin said, now I don't mean to discourage any of the artists, but Darwin said that there comes a time in your spiritual life where you could become a great everything. You become a great artist, a great orator, a great musician. They're all right there. A great teacher. And he said, I had to go past that and go further into Baba. I was surprised. I mean, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take up art, but there comes a time when it's right there at your fingertips. You could become many great things. And he decided to push past that and go further into Baba. It's just an interesting. You don't misinterpret that. Thinking like, oh, artists are just kind of down the road a little bit. I passed them. No.
Baba told Harry Kenmore, if you had not been blind, you would have been the world's greatest surgeon. He said, but you would not have come to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So we got, yeah,
Can I just share? I'd like to share a short quote from Baba that I got on a card a while back.
yeah. And then let's have a few moments of silence unless Martha has something to say. Anything that springs to mind?
No, I apologize. I was so late, but I had my brother and sister come by. But I wanted to come on screen and just say hello.
Yeah. Well, good. We're just we're just sitting in bed eating anything, just
Yeah, I can see. Who's that? Margie Connor. They're
Margie.
in bed.
and-
Margie.
Yeah. Okay,
Well,
Bob.
it's funny. We're in bed, but we're actually 3 hours ahead of all you guys.
Yeah, I know. You're
Oh, there you are. Oh, I thought it was just a picture. Oh, it's.
Yeah.
Where do you live, Margie and Vanessa? Where are you?
Well, she lives in North Carolina, but I'm in Arizona and she's visiting me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay.
Bob, we'll have Bob read, and then we'll have a few moments of silence. And,
Do not worry about your weaknesses. Eventually they will go. Even if they linger, love will one day consume them. Everything disappears in the ocean of love. Because I love you, you have a pool of love within you. When you feel wretched, when you fall in your weakness, have a dip in that pool of love. Refresh yourself in that pool of my love within you. It is always there. Even if you wash your weaknesses every day in that pool, it will remain clear. Don't worry. Baba loves you. That is what really matters. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba, I love that one. Yes.
yeah. Have a few moments of silence. Jay Baba. Goer, did you have anything that
I've
And-
enjoyed hearing everybody's share so much. All you guys were spot on with all your different ways of handling self-effacement. And yes, with me, it was the same. It's been a work in progress over the years. It doesn't happen all of a sudden, but if you give it all to Baba, then he takes over, of course. And, with my being so introverted in the beginning and all this, and how he brought all that around is just by me giving it to him has taught me a lot. So that's how I've overcome all that. But I have a quote that I can also share. So I'll end with that. So Baba says, unless you give up the breath of your desire and die to yourself, you cannot make me the breath of your life and live forever. Jai Baba.
Wow.
Jai Baba. Thank you.
Jeff, Trisha has raised her hand.
Oh, yeah, Tricia.
Oh, this is off topic. Is anyone going to India this year?
I'm hoping to go
Yes.
in mid-October. If especially, I mean, if there aren't any COVID restrictions, I'm just going to go for it.
I wonder if Goher could read hers once again.
Oh,
If she
sure.
would mind.
Yes, definitely. Baba says, unless you give up the breath of your desire and die to yourself, you cannot make me the breath of your life and live forever.
Yeah.
Jay Baba, thank
Jay-
you.
Thank
Jay
you.
Baba, thank you, Jeff.
Baba.
Okay, here we got the bouncer. Clear out the tavern.
Ready? All
Yes.
right, let's go. Avatar,
Meher
Meher,
Baba.
Jay.
Yay.
Avatar, Meher,
Baba, Atar, Baba,
Jay.
Baba.
Yeah, I don't know how Bob can, hopefully Bob can,
Did you hear that,
separate all
Baba?
when I hear that, it sounds like a big plate of spaghetti is like in front of me. And everything's kind of woven in, like just a thing of spaghetti and there's no, it's all entangled and everything like that.
A mess, a mess.
Oh, Marcia,
Jeff, can Nazreen say it by herself once before we go off screen?
Okay. Go for
Sure.
it.
Okay. Avatar, Meher, Baba, Ki, Jay.
Ah,
Thank you. Thank you.
I
Jay
just love that voice. Okay, see you guys. Have a nice week.
Bye. Thank you.
I'm going to see if I can get